Hi, this is Bill Schrader, Sales Agronomist with Awesomeness Farm Supply. In this week's Ag Update, we're doing some in-field observations. We're going to emphasize a couple things that Devin talked about in last week's Ag Update. We're also going to talk a little bit about top dieback in the cornfields that we're seeing, and also go over some methods of taking yield estimates in corn. Taking yield estimates is a common practice by growers and agronomists alike. There's several different methods of doing this. Basically, the first step in most practices is to take account of your population. You'll want to divide out and take account in 1,000th of an acre and multiply that out to get your population over a total acre. So in 17.4 feet in 30-inch rows, you'd want to count an average of your stand in several spots across the field. The next step in most cases is to count kernels. And we'll do this by counting the kernels around and then also length. When counting kernels, you'll want to take several years. It's nice to have a randomized pattern. You may want to take the first year, the 10th year, and the 20th year in an area of the field. Obviously, the more ears and the more checks you take, the more accurate your yield estimate will be. After you get your average population and the number of kernels around and the length of the ear of corn, you'll want to multiply those three factors out and then divide by a factor of, usually it's 90, but that can vary depending on the kernel depth and also the test weight or moisture of the corn. One of the dangers of doing the kernel count method of yield estimates is the variation in the size of the kernels. Different size kernels will have a different weight and can throw off the calculation. Another method of taking a yield estimate is to follow the same procedure with getting the population and collecting the ears. But at that point in time, we can take a weight. I usually do this with a kitchen scale and prefer to do it in ounces. Once you've gotten the weight of the ears, you can take an average and multiply that out with the population to get the total amount of ounces in a thousandth of an acre. You'd multiply that by 1,000, divide by 16 ounces in a pound, and you would divide by, the factor I choose is 95 pounds per bushel of ear corn. If you want to be even more accurate, another step in the process you can take is you could hand shell the ears, weigh the actual grain, and then you could take in a shrink factor of 1.2% and then divide by 56 pounds per bushel. With all these yield calculations, the more of them that you do across the field, the more accurate your numbers will be. So two common diseases that we're seeing in corn and soybeans right now, one of which was discussed in last week's episode with Devin, is sudden death syndrome. So Devin did a great job of explaining what that is, and Billy has taken some photos to illustrate what it looks like in fields around the area and the impact it can have on pod fill. Another disease that we're seeing is top dieback. Top dieback, or anthracnose, can be seen as you drive by fields. A natural senescence of the corn plant should start at the bottom of the plant and work its way up. In top dieback, what we see at times is that there will be a yellowing or a death of the plant from the top down as well. If you're seeing sudden death in your fields, take note of those areas. Those can be hot spots for the next rotation back to soybeans. Early planting, cold wet soils, and also variety can have a factor in that. In addition to that, we have a seed treatment that's available which can help limit the amount of sudden death you experience. In this field, you can see that the tops of the plants are fairly healthy, and that's a good thing. The top of the plant, or anything on the plant from the ear up, is very important to ear fill. When we have top dieback or senescence from the top down, that can affect the number of kernels we produce and also how full and starchy they become. Another practice we've discussed in the past is cover cropping. We're in Amy Osmus's garden right now in front of some of her raised beds, and Amy planted some of our high fly mix that we get from Millborn Seeds here. This has several weeks of growth on it. You can tell, here's an example of a radish which has already established a really nice taproot. So today is September 1st. This is a prime time of the year to be doing aerial seeding into corn with some of these blends that we have, the high fly mix. We have a new one called Brassy Legs. It's a time right before the corn senesces or dries down and the cover crop is able to get down to the soil and establish itself. especially with a little bit of moisture like we've been receiving now. If you want to do some overseeding in soybeans, I'd encourage you to wait a little bit longer. We'd like to see the beans yellow up, maybe just begin to start to drop their leaves, so maybe in a week or two, just depending on the soybean maturities. If you're interested in cover crops or want to learn more about the practice, please don't hesitate to give us a call at Osmus Farm Supply. I'm Bill Schrader with Osmus Farm Supply, and thanks for watching this week's Ag Update.